Hi, I'm Troy.
And I'm Markay, and today we've traveled to Asheville, North Carolina to find something delicious.
Join us as we discover how chocolate is made.
In this episode, we've returned to Asheville to visit French Broad Chocolate, one of the few chocolatiers who make their own delectable chocolates from bean to bar. First opened in 2008, this company has always been ecologically conscious since the start, as well as giving to and working in collaboration with their local community. Yelp's trend expert, Tara Lewis, recently named French Broad Chocolates as the must-eat local treat, and the Wall Street Journal included French Broad Chocolate in their ultimate guide for informed chocolate indulgers. This chocolatier has 3 locations, featuring their full dessert chocolate lounge in the heart of downtown Asheville, and their boutique location adjacent to it. Today, we've traveled to their newest location, the Chocolate Factory and Cafe, for an up-close look at how they make their decadent treats.
Hey guys, my name is Evan Ackerman, and I am the lead chocolate maker at the French Broad Chocolate Factory. And I'm going to just take you through the steps of making chocolate today. Being a bean to bar facility, we got to start with the beans. These beans right down here are from Nicaragua. We use a whole lot of these in our chocolate making process, and this is 54 kilos, and for us Americans, these are 120 pounds. But the beans kind of look like almonds, and you know, different beans from different parts of the country, depending on the genetics, have a little bit different look to it. With these bags, they do come from rural areas of the, part of the world around the equator. And so a lot of the times the processing areas aren't nearly as clean and nice as the factory you're in. So sometimes in the bags we find detritus such as stones or pieces of toolage, maybe a piece of a shovel or something like that. So you got to make sure you get that kind of material out. This machinery right here is going to allow us to shake the beans around, and just through the weight differential actually shake the heavier material out. Now the beans, a little bit lighter than most stones, and so this is called a de-stoner. I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to make sure that we slice the bag and allow the beans to fall right down into this hopper. The beans are going to start to fill up our de-stoner. It's on a spring. Once the de-stoner starts to shake around, it's going to bounce the beans up and down, and in doing so, the beans are going to fall out this chute, and hopefully the stones that are a little bit heavier in weight are going to kick out the back. Now we've got our clean beans from Nicaragua, and now the fun begins because we have a roaster from Torino, Italy. It was made, we think, in the early 50s, maybe the late 40s. This is an old coffee roaster that's been converted into roasting cacao. And the way we're going to feed the beans is pretty neat. We're going to use good old air power. If you remember going to the bank back in the day and just putting the tube in and shooting it over, we're actually going to feed our beans into the hopper over there. And once we're up to temp, we're going to drop the beans down into this barrel. Now this barrel is going to start spinning around in there so they achieve the peak roast. We're going to achieve the peak roast from what we like to call in the industry terroir. The country of origin is going to offer certain flavor profiles. If it's from Nicaragua, the Nicaraguan beans offer a certain earthiness. We notice if we have beans from Peru, there's a little bit of fruitiness to it. So all we're trying to do is just match that flavor profile in the roast. We don't want to overdo a fruit and lose that flavor. We don't want to underdo an earthy flavor and have it taste like dirt, right? So we want a good, nice flavor here. And it's achieved again through nice churning of the beans. Now the beans will sit in the roast, and again, for us Americans, we're going to get anywhere between 250 degrees Fahrenheit and 270 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range, and we feel comfortable that it's nice and tasty. Now that could take anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. Again, this is about 50 kilos in there, well over 100 pounds. So that said, once it's rolling in there and we achieve peak flavor, we're going to open up on this big old, what I call the magic 8-ball handle here. And the flaps open, the beans will spill out in here, and this giant metal apparatus in here is actually going to churn the beans around, and it cools the beans down, and it literally takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It locks that flavor in. So whatever flavor we are trying to achieve in here, it's going to be captured in there. Now, we're able to actually take the beans out and taste them one by one and see if we actually have that peak flavor. This is a roasted bean. And it has 2 different things on it. It's got the husk on the outside, like any agricultural product. Anybody who's done some farming in their life, they know they gotta do a little work here. The goodness is on the inside. And so what we need to do when it's roasted is remove this shell. Now luckily that roasting gets rid of the moisture inside of the bean as well, which allows the shell to kind of poof up a little bit off of the insides. Doesn't look like popcorn or anything cool like that, but what it allows us to do is crack the bean. And when we crack the bean, look at that. We just took the shell right off. Now that said, the goodness is in the bean, so what we want to do is always try the bean. Luckily for me, we always get to try the different roasts, right? Ensure that it's quality control. Once we know that it's perfect, We're now gonna do that work that I just showed you through machines here. We're gonna remove the shell here by an age-old process called winnowing. Winnowing is, if you ever seen documentaries of people out in the fields with wheat and they're thrashing it, you know, it's biblical times. There's documentaries of people throwing rice up in the air and they're trying to get the chaff off, right, the hull off. That's exactly what we wanna do. Now, this machine, very basic, it's got a hopper, we're gonna put it in, and the hopper has an automatic feeder. And as it makes its way here, it's gonna actually crack the beans and allow us to blow air over it and capture the shells into that bag right there. We're using the properties of physics here, just the lighter weight of the shells and the heavier weight of the nib. Now, the nib is another chocolate term. All that is just a small piece of bean with the shell removed. It's a little bit heavier in weight, and it's actually making its way down into the bucket here. Now, it's not perfect. There'll be a little bit of shell in there, but what we're looking for is a nice even pull because at this point we're gonna start losing more and more material, and so we wanna capture the good stuff as much as possible. So within the bean, we do have the nibs broken up and we've got the shell removed, but unfortunately there's a little tiny stem that's in the center of a bean. And that stem is called a radicle. It's pretty unpleasant to eat. It'll stick in your teeth if you're eating it. And unfortunately, it starts to degrade the flavors and process of chocolate making. And so you want to remove it as much as possible. So through the next stage here, we're going to take this material and we're going to pass it through a hopper which feeds into a sieve. Now the sieve has just small enough micron size that allows that little tiny stem to fall through to the bottom. We're able to collect the tiny baby stems and the little small nibs that may fall through, and we'll collect them in its own bucket down below. The material that's going to pass through here are nibs that we want to keep for chocolate making, and it allows us to just purify them, clean it up so that when we do the work later on, we don't have to work so hard, and plus the machines don't accumulate so much radical.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it smells so wonderful.
Oh, it smells so good in here.
It's delicious in here.
All right, guys, so this is the next step in the production room. So what we're gonna do is take those nibs, those lovely nibs that you guys can eat as is or grind into chocolate, and we're gonna utilize the properties of fat here. Within a cocoa bean, there's approximately 50% fat. That's known as cocoa butter. Everybody knows that stuff is the lovely stuff for your skin, but that's the same cocoa butter in the bean. We just need to utilize that. As a company, we try to use as few ingredients as possible when we're making chocolate. We don't use any artificial ingredients. We don't use lecithin. So we really try to apply that cocoa butter concept by, get it going, utilize what we got. We're gonna take those beans and we're gonna take them into the nib form. We're gonna pass them through this hopper into these stones right here, guys. So this is called a 2-roll refiner. There are knives on both sides, and so when the material passes through here, it's gonna start coming out this conveyor belt, and it's gonna go through 3 times, and that friction allows us to move the stones closer together, and just the properties of friction, the heat build up there, and the stone friction itself will actually take the fat and start to separate it. Now, it's not gonna look like oil and vinegar, but it's gonna take a solid nib and compress it so much that it's gonna come out like flakes. Notice that it looks rather dry at the moment, but if I put a little pressure on it, this material again has gone through 3 times. This was the same nibs that you saw earlier. That fat is now utilized and it's present. It's there, it may not look like it, but now that I have passed it 3 times, if I put a little pressure on this material, I'm actually able to get it going. Let's see if it's gonna stick for me. Yeah, and make a chocolate snowball, right? So that would never be able to happen if you just took the nibs and stuck them together.
Can we throw those at each other?
Yeah, right, that'd be a lot of fun. But the fat's there, right? It's nice and moving, and all we're gonna do is take this stuff and refine it down into its liquid form. And so in our little small machine, that chocolate is now liquefied, and the cocoa butter is mixed all in there, and there's a screw, like an auger screw, that's actually gonna move the material around. There's hundreds of little steel balls in there that are gonna whip around, and they're gonna beat up the cacao and take that solid material and beat up the fat and actually have the fat separate. And as it starts to move around, it's lovely because it doesn't separate like oil and vinegar, but it creates this lovely concoction that I call a fat jacket, where it takes the brown particle that's sitting there and it wraps the cocoa butter around it. And that's what we're looking for in there. And in doing so, when you have chocolate melt in your mouth, that's how it rolls on your tongue. If you ever had chocolate that kind of balls up or is dry, it's not a good refining. And so all we're looking to do here is refine it. Now, this is a crucial stage because not only are we going to break this down to liquid chocolate, but now we can add ingredients as well. Now, this machine just contains dark chocolate. We don't put any milk in there. When we go to make milk, we're gonna have another machine over here. Now, the fun thing is that we have 2 machines here, not 3. there are 3 chocolates out there, right? There's milk, dark, and white. Now, if we know anything about white, white is generally not the healthiest product out there. When we're going to approach our white chocolate, we got to do this in a good way, which means we're going to use very good cocoa butter, very good sugar, and very good milk powder. And when you add those 3 things together, you can make some very fine white chocolate. Now, the fun thing is being that we don't have a milk chocolate machine, how are we going to make milk chocolate? What we did is we made dark, we made white chocolate, we pumped them together in the right proportions, and we can make milk. So we're able to make 3 different chocolates with 2 machines.
Oh, look at all the little balls coated with milk.
Got it. That's white chocolate.
That's white chocolate.
That's white chocolate.
Not milk chocolate. That's
not yet.
Chocolate.
We haven't added any brown solids yet. This is a giant center stirrer that's going to spin around, right? It's going to whip the steel balls around. There's a pump in there that's going to circulate the chocolate, and this is ball refining. We're able to make a full batch of chocolate within about 3 to 4 hours. The chocolate is ready at this point. It's nice and thick. It's at the point that we need to pump it over to our conch, our last machine in the refining process. We're going to use air power again and put our jet on, and it's going to shoot our chocolate through the wall here and take it over to our conch. Conching is extremely important because it allows the cocoa butter to evenly be dispersed. So that's all we want to do is move that cocoa butter around. We've got a barrel method that basically just has an agitator in it that's going to spin the chocolate around. And we also have an emulsifier. It's on a giant motor right here, but if you can imagine a giant blender. That thing is able to whip the chocolate around, and now you don't want to leave that on for too long, but what that does is it aerates the chocolate. What we're trying to do is 2 things. Yes, move that cocoa butter around smoothly, but the last and one of maybe the most important steps about conching is did you achieve that flavor profile of the bean? Did you honor that? When we were talking about making Nicaragua, have we taken the roast and said we've achieved the best flavors off the roast? Yeah, we did that with the roasting. Now, refining, did we refine it to the right time and not over-refine it? Like leave it running for days or something and walk in there and you're like, oh my God, there's no chocolate left. It just went into nothing, right? We refined it properly. And once we have it in the conch, we want to whip it around and move it around, not all day, but just so slightly enough that it achieves that kind of soft, small flavor profiles like the earthiness of a Nicaragua, or maybe a kind of a fruit note like a strawberry note from a Peru or something, right? If you let this whip around too long, it's going to be lost, right? But there are kind of maybe a sour quality to that fruit that you're looking to blow a little bit off. That's why you have an emulsifier. So we're able to control that really specific flavor profiles well beyond just doing it by hand. And so this really takes us to a new level of chocolate making by able to control our conching. What we have here is giant pipes, right? Where once the chocolate is going to go through our holding tanks, it has to be sieved one more time, which means going through a nice screen that has 2 layers to where any kind of maybe sugar particle that didn't get refined properly, maybe if it goes through the pipes, we don't want that in the chocolate, right? And again, it's another safety step to where anything that's coming through the sieve, beautiful chocolate. Now it's gonna come through this pipe down in here into our tank, and our tank right here can hold 500 kilograms of chocolate, which is enough chocolate to make a full shift worth of chocolate chips if you want to make it. Like, it'll roll for a long time. Okay. So we filled up this tank earlier, and we're going to take this tank momentarily and wheel it into our production room, and we're going to go make some chocolates.
Honey, 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 honey.
Guys, this is the last step in the production area. This is where we take the finished chocolate. We bring it in here in tanks, and we're either going to create chocolate bars in our automated line over here, which I'll talk about briefly, or we can make bulk chocolate for sale. And what I mean by that is that we can make chocolate chips or chocolate drops. And once we take those, they're going to run through our cooling system, and they're done when they come out. So we can hand them right off to our confectioners, or we can package them up with our packaging department in here and get them right off, shipped right to you. This is where we're able to create a good volume of chocolate, and it all starts with this machine right here. Now, these tempering machines hold liquid chocolate, and it actually takes the chocolate and feeds it up through. Once it feeds it through, it's going to put it into this box here where we can physically change the plates out and have different chocolate come out in different shapes and sizes. Now, that said, we can make big chocolate bars, we can make small chocolate bars, we can make drops with pistoles, right, is what they usually call them, or little chocolate chips. And even smaller than that, we can make chocolate dots, which goes into our sipping chocolate right now. And so that said, once it's automated, it goes through this giant cooling unit, it comes out the other side. These tempering machines right here allow the confectioners to do a milk, a white, and they have a dark machine. This is the milk machine, and this is a tempering machine where it's gonna keep the chocolate at the right temperature. And what that means is that we're going to heat the chocolate up, slowly cool it down, and it forms just the right crystals of cocoa butter that it basically binds together nice, like a nice strong chain link fence. The more links you have together, the stronger the chocolate. So this chocolate locks into place. Luckily, this machine locks the temperature for us. And these guys are either able to work molds where they dump chocolate in and create shells, or they're actually able to do enrobing with these machines. And enrobing is just simply the process of taking a ganache, or let's say any piece of chocolate, and wrapping chocolate on the outside, making a nice shell on the outside.
Oh, that looks so good.
Ooh. All right, so guys, this is enrobing. This is our dark couverture chocolate here. Much different looking than our milk machine down there. Right now she's working with bonbons chocolate.
Oh, I love you.
Now there's a creamy center that's ganache, that's generally cream and chocolate. And you know, they'll have little small balls, squares, whatever the shape of the confection is calling for. And then enrobing is simply the process of diverting the chocolate into a curtain. And it thins it out just enough that the automated track here can send the material through, and it gets a nice coating on the outside. But at the moment, they're just handling whatever kind of a collection is called for. I think there's maybe 4 to 5 different collections at any given time. A lot of selection to choose from if you're a customer, right? There's a lot of neat local ingredients we use in there, and Ben, the manager, Petra, the assistant manager, they got a lot of good ideas they come up with. This is a chocolate habanero confection, and this is you know, made with peppers that were grown with our shell waste. It's kind of a full circle.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Your shell waste is the fertilizer that
that
makes
grew the peppers.
habanero, and the habanero
We took the
comes
chocolate
in.
habaneros, we brought it in here and de-seeded it and had some fun, and this is what they're currently using for this collection.
You look happy about this. I can tell you like them.
It's a lot of fun, right? To be able to actually do what you talk about. If you want to do farm to factory, you got to get creative, and so it's kind of fun to see full cycle the product being made, right?
Yeah.
So for the final part of the tour, we like to do a tasting so that people can really experience the difference between different types of cacao. So first I want to give you a little taste of some nibs here. So these are nibs that have gone through the 2-step winnowing process that we looked at.
Okay.
Here you go.
What do we do?
Oh, you just threw them in your mouth.
Well, I mean, what am I supposed to do?
You're supposed to eat them. I think you did fine. You want some more?
What's it taste like, Troy?
I'm working on it. It tastes like chocolate, but it also tastes like tea.
Okay, sure, definitely. So these nibs that we're trying are pretty mild and smooth. They're Nicaraguan nibs. Definitely the most mellow out of all the nibs that we work with. So those are the ones I usually have people try. The first chocolate bar we're gonna try is 68% Nicaragua. So it's the type of nib that we just tried. I'm gonna let you try this right here. And if you will, just break that piece in half and listen to the sound. You hear that? Yeah.
Nice. I
Here,
should've
let's
done
do
it
another
on the
one.
microphone.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah. Snap indeed. That's exactly what that sound is called. It's called a snap.
All right.
Yeah.
Snap. Can I eat
And
now?
yeah, eat it. That tells you that we've got a nice, well-tempered piece of chocolate. You can definitely hear a difference in between different types of chocolate as far as the sound is concerned.
It's not sweet. It's like a dark chocolate.
Like a semi-sweet?
Not even semi-sweet. It's like a almost sugarless, and you said 30% sugar.
Just about, yeah. And it's definitely on the darker side for sure. 68 is pretty dark. Usually commercial chocolates, milk chocolate's gonna have around 10% cacao mass, so 68 to 10, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And so the next one we're gonna try here is our Peru 70%.
Do we get to snap this
There
one
you
too?
go, snap it, yeah.
It felt chunkier.
Yeah. Slightly
chunkier.
different sound there.
Yeah, just a different sound.
Still very dark chocolate.
Yeah, it's very dark.
I won't say it's bitter, but it's bitter. But it's a little sweeter than the other ones.
So that's our Peru 70%. And the Peruvian chocolate, this type of Peruvian chocolate tends to be pretty fruit forward, pretty fruity. So generally kind of like a bright red fruit, like a raspberry, pomegranate, maybe cranberry. Definitely has a fruitier flavor to it. The Nicaragua tastes more like chocolate, and the Peruvian tastes more like fruity chocolate.
Yeah.
And then the bonbon that we have here, this is our cherry cream. And this is a beautiful bonbon.
Yeah, it is.
This is actually one of my very favorites to look at. You can see here, this is what's called a molded bonbon. So it's made in a mold. And look at that beautiful,
Looks
nice,
like a chocolate
It looks like a
diamond.
garnet.
it is. It's like a beautiful little gem.
Yes.
And this beautiful bright pink right here is actually hand-painted, naturally dyed cocoa butter that they paint in the mold before the chocolate goes in. And so every single one of these is garnished by hand. Could not be more handmade than that. Give it a try. And the only rule
Do I have
for
to snap this one too?
Nope. But my one rule for bonbons is eat it in more than one bite.
What? Yummy.
My mouth's watering over here.
So this
I
has
offered to let you try and you said no.
Well, you can eat this one. This has a tart cherries that have been chopped up in a cream filling, and then it's enrobed in dark chocolate.
Okay, so first off, I didn't want to bite it because it was too pretty. And then I took a bite of it, and this is what happens.
Isn't it awesome? Yes.
Marquet, what did you think about the French Broad Chocolate Factory tour?
Ooh, I loved it, every bit of it. I learned so much I didn't know about cacaos and all sorts of nibs and all that kind of stuff. It was great.
Everything that relates to chocolate,
I
right?
know, I didn't even know it. So what was your favorite part, Troy?
The taste test at the end, of course. That was the best.
I love it. So what do you think we should give this one?
We need to give this 2 cacaos.
All right.
Thanks for joining our travels.
And we'll see you on our next Offbeat Discovery.
Bye.